This is Wrench Life. This is a long time coming. I've thought about doing this podcast for a long time. I've been working on Wrench Life for a long time. So,
your whole lifetime, in fact.
Yeah, you could say that. So I'm Dave, or Wrench, or Nar Wrench, and I'm here with Blaise.
Hello.
And this podcast is going to kind of navigate the Wrench Life program, which is progression-based mental and physical health. And it'll also kind of be a platform to just kind of talk through life and mental health and physical health, just everything in that whole realm of feeling good. It's actually Wrench Life with a Y. And the why is the question. Why? Wrench Life with a Y, because there's nothing more valuable than feeling good, right?
Everything else falls into place.
So I'm going to start all these podcasts with a segment I'm going to call A Beautiful Moment. Because mindfulness is part of the Wrench Life philosophy. This is going to be cool because you're going to learn about it. So it's like kind of like Blaise is the meta viewer.
There we go.
And mindfulness is essentially living in the now, living in the moment, being mindful of things. So a beautiful moment is going to be a segment where I just say a moment of beauty I experienced.
Cool.
And to encourage other people to recognize that. So here's my moment of beauty. It actually happened earlier today. I was in the car. I got lunch with my friend, Madeline. And then I stopped. Went to Ugly Duck and got a coffee just to drop it off. Dara, my girlfriend at work.
Very nice.
And on shuffle, a song came on that I normally would skip. But I said, you know what? I'm going to listen to it. And this is my beautiful moment. Oh, come on. Of course it's going to be funny. This is Beethoven's Sixth Symphony Pastoral. Oh, so nice. I'm driving down the beautiful Monroe Avenue.
All the newly vacant buildings.
But for real,
beautiful day out, too. It's real nice, sunny.
Exactly.
All the snow's melting. You can really... Yesterday I had a moment like I was driving to go unbury my car that I finally got rid of this morning. It's been sitting in waste for 2 years. And as I was driving, all this, it was like, the light was all nice, and the little snowflakes were coming off all the trees, and just looked like a snow globe. It was just really pretty yesterday. I don't know.
Yeah, that was exactly my moment. Like the sun was out. I should have the window open, get some light in here. The sun was out, and there hasn't been a lot of sun lately, and it just, just had a bunch of cups of coffee. I was feeling really good. I was doing something nice for someone. The sun was out, and then... I think life is telling me something there. Don't pause it.
But play that in the background.
That plays into the Wrench Life and progression based life and health. Like your younger classical music, what's that? It's stupid. It's antiquated. But it's really quite beautiful. Like, you're not going to be 16 and like, dude, let's listen to some Beethoven.
Yeah.
But as an adult, it's really nice.
Yeah, it's kind of. You can enjoy the nuances of it a little more when you're a little older.
All right, so moving along here, an important distinction that needs to be made before we go into Wrench Life is that Wrench Life is both a philosophy and an ideology, okay? Mm-hmm. And I think it would be beneficial to outline exactly the differences between those things, roughly speaking, because it's basically self-updating. So according to this website I found called differencebetween.net. You can kind of guess what they do. So this is what their difference between philosophy and ideology. The framework for this, and most commonly, is political, but either way, according to difference.net, there are fundamental differences between philosophy and ideology. Ideology refers to a set of beliefs or doctrines that back a certain social institution or a particular organization, while philosophy refers to looking at life in a pragmatic manner and attempting to understand why life is as it is and the principles that govern behind it. Ideology expresses, this is really on the political side, but it'll all come together. Ideology expresses dissatisfaction with the current state and it aspires towards a future state, whereas philosophy tries to understand the world in its current state. In other words, ideology is aimed at changing the world, whereas philosophy is aimed at seeking truth. So to put that in the framework of health, vegans that's an ideology, period.
Yeah.
That it's just there's a few axioms of what it is, and that is it. It's not like a more of a philosophy would be like, I don't eat anything that incurs suffering. And then you can, well, what is suffering?
Yeah.
How do you balance suffering? That's maybe getting into the philosophy of it, but vegans typically aren't like that. Vegans are like flat out, period. That's it.
Veganism is a really simple answer to a much more complicated question.
Absolutely. So moving along, ideologies discourage any thinking that goes against the basic doctrines that govern the ideology. Mm-hmm. So like questioning what's an acceptable. I'm not trying to bash vegans. I'm just using as an example. So the definitions and differences clearly indicate that philosophy and ideology, if measured on a scale, would occupy two extreme ends of the scale. The purpose of any philosopher is to seek knowledge for the sake of wisdom and truth, whereas an ideologue's sole aim is to advocate and force his or her ideology wherever they can. Which again, will not trying to bash the vegans, but that's their thing. Philosophy is objective, whereas an ideologue will always impose his or her ideologies or vision, and they'll discard anything else. Philosophy requires structured thinking, whereas ideology has a lot more personal emotion in play. Philosophy is neither harmful nor helpful, as there is no advice behind it. On the other hand, ideology can bring both harm and good to a society or an individual. This is because the set of doctrines that govern the ideology may always not serve. It's a weird phrase. Always not serve. May always not serve universal interests, and ideologies demand advocacy and conversion of other beliefs or thoughts that are against that particular ideology. So, however, blah blah blah. We could go down here. So yeah, here's an important part of that paragraph. Ideology is born out of some philosophy. It has to be. So the conclusion, according to differencebetween.net, is here's the 5 conclusions. Philosophy refers to a pragmatic approach of looking and analyzing life, where ideology refers to a set of beliefs and rules belonging to a particular group. Philosophy aims to understand the world as it exists, whereas ideology is born out of a vision for the future that aims at changing the current state. Philosophy is objective, whereas ideology is dogmatic. Philosophy does not impact as ideology aims to impact. And all ideologies have an underlying philosophy, but not vice versa. So the reason that's important is because wrench life is both a philosophy and the ideology. It's like, it's a constant, like you're constantly using philosophy and mindfulness and your meditative time to constantly update your personal ideology. Mm-hmm. The thing that Wrench Life is pointing out is that not my ideology of health is not the same as Blaise's or anyone else's. Yeah. And as I implicate things I've learned and try this and try that and eat that or don't eat that, I'm constantly updating it. So it's not like the goal is to feel good. Mm-hmm. How I get there, we'll have a rough formula that we could all work off of, but ultimately we're all going to have a different formula.
Everybody's body's different. Can't use the
exactly. Same. And I think that's what separates this philosophy from everything else, is that it's not like just...
It's not a specific diet or way
no
of living.
Carbs.
Yeah.
No meat.
Yeah.
Just, it's...
What works for you will definitely not work for everybody else. You can't eat pizza and drink and...
Well, you can't.
Or not. I mean, not everyone can close out the bar every day, eat a slice of pizza, and then ride 60 miles in the morning, no problem. Like, That doesn't work for me.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing is like, it's both, and it's constant. That's why it's progression based. That's why, which will actually segment my next piece of this is how it is progression based, and it's based on goals.
Mm-hmm.
And the ultimate goal is to feel good, and that's a great, like, it's like a meta goal. Like that every goal you have will be roughly under that subset of goals.
Yeah.
And I think a big error in most lifestyle things or diets is that it has this like ideological goal, like I'm keto.
Yeah.
That's the goal. There's
Keto.
Answer.
Done.
Keto. Like what? When? For how long? Why? Like
till something better comes up. Till someone else tells me what to do. It's kind of like
and
just
when you
following.
have a pipe dream goal, so it's like
There's no
you're
real
not going to
foundation.
reach it. Like if your goal is just keto,
Yeah.
it's virtually impossible to be in keto all the time, and it's an insanely antisocial diet.
Yeah.
And you're going to fail at being in ketosis all the time. And if your goal is just keto,
Yeah.
it's like, well, when you fail and you break it back into your old shitty diet, you fall so flat on your face because it was just this like ultimate goal, keto.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. There needs to be some more depth to it, because if
Exactly.
you have to acknowledge that you might fail at your goals, and if when you do, you need to have a plan for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the complicated thing about Wrench Life. It's all these intersections between mental and physical health. So when we'll have this nice broad ultimate goal, feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then within that, you will pick your sub goals. Like I was just having lunch with Madeline, and we're talking about running, and we had this exact conversation. I was like, if you were like, I want to run,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, how far? And if your goal is I want to run 2 miles, and you don't run or do anything physical, you're gonna go outside and you're gonna go like 100 yards, and you're gonna want to you're gonna want to die because running is terrible. It's like you could say you have a realistic goal. You could be mindful of it, and you could be like, all right, in a year, I want to be okay with running 2 miles.
Then you
That's
work
good.
towards
That's good.
that.
Like you could leave it open ended, like every day, once a month, like just 2 miles. I want to not have to sweat that. Okay, so we'll start by just walking, and then maybe power walking. You have to think through these things, so then you're working towards your goal.
Yep.
And then when this comes into the mental health side, is every step you get that little hit of serotonin that you reached your goal. Like I always say, the hardest part about running is that moment you stand up and decide to run.
That's what I always say about the gym. The hardest part about going to the gym is just getting into the parking lot.
Yeah.
So many days I get there and I'm like, oh, I'm here. Cool. I'm not going to back out now. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah. So, like, that's a great example. It's just get there.
And the days that you least want to do it are the most important days. The days where it's easy is when you're already ready to do it. It's the days you have to convince yourself to get up and outside or into the gym or whatever is the hardest.
Yeah, and I say that getting up in the morning and going for a run immediately is not. It's more for my mental health than my physical health, because the first, so it's before you run, it's like 99.9% of you is like running. Fuck that.
Yeah, no,
and then
not gonna happen.
0.1% of you is like maybe, and then every time that part of you that wants to do it, whatever it is, wins, it gains a bigger percentage. It's essentially the neurology of a feedback loop. Everything's positive feedback loop. So every time you run, you're more likely to run.
Yeah.
So that percentage of you that's willing to do it gets stronger and stronger than the part of you that's, to use the Rogan thing, your inner bitch.
Yeah.
Which I'll probably have to come up with my own version of that, so I'm not plagiarizing. But I guess it'd still be plagiarizing. It just wouldn't be blatant copy.
But I mean, and to that, like the when you don't let that win is more detrimental than letting it win every time. Like it's harder to grow it than it is to let it just fall back.
Yeah.
You can ruin all that progress by letting your inner bitch take you over.
Yeah, and the point of being progress based is it keeps you motivated.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels good to accomplish stuff. Feels really good. It's like my favorite thing in life is doing something, And by choosing an incremental plan, you're constantly going to feel good about yourself. You're going to always be on that step. You're going to be progressing toward it, you know? And you can pick your pace as long as it's a realistic pace and not the running pace, although it would be the running pace.
Yeah.
So articulating goals is a huge piece of the Wrench Life philosophy and ideology. Like, I literally, like, when I started running, I wanted to not hate running. That was pretty much my goal. Like, I want to be like, if I want to run, I'll just go for a run. And not be like, this is going to be the worst thing in the world. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's not, like, it's still probably the worst thing in the world, but I don't sweat it.
Yeah.
Because that's the reality. It's like running doesn't necessarily really get easier. You just get tougher.
Mind over matter is such like a overused cliche term, but it is pretty remarkable what you can make your body do if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, step by step. Like, I think that's what's good about the Wolf Brigade where you go is that, you know, you're all doing the same stuff in the classes, but you constantly, you could just up the weight. Just slowly. You're still doing it as ever. It's not like you're getting left behind because you're all doing the same thing. It's just you pick your weight. And when you say, they say over there, if you're getting toward the end, you can't get there, just switch to a lighter one.
Yeah.
Don't reach the goal of 70 of them or 20 of them. Just down the weight, and that's okay to down because you're like, if you lower the weight but still get to the benchmark, it's not as good a hit as serotonin, but you're still you still finished it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you can limp to the finish line, not physically. That's an expression. Like, if you're limping to the finish line, you might be injured, and that could be an issue.
Yeah,
but
like scaling is not a demotion. If you as long as you're making your body do the correct motions, that the weight is less relevant than doing the motion correctly.
I'm trying to find this quote from Jefferson that I was just telling someone about. I was just giving someone, it's really kind of funny, advice on building their credit score, which is completely random. But we got into talking about, because she said she wanted to grow up. You know, she's wants to be more serious about her life and all those things and not act like such a child. And I was pointing out how so many people that are my age, 30-ish, are kind of like they want to push off being an adult because they've overvalued the lack of having responsibility. Not irresponsibility, just the lack of having responsibility. So I basically said, get serious and get tough. So the quote is the most fortunate of us in our journey through life frequently meet with calamities and misfortunes which may greatly afflict us. And to fortify our minds against these attacks, these calamities and misfortunes should be the principal study and endeavors of our lives. Which is like, fuck yeah. Like,
somebody from Wolf Brigade posted something really similar to that today. Hold on.
So yeah, you pull
that up, Jamie.
Yeah. So you'll pull it. I'll elaborate on that. So, like, in line with what I was saying before, it's not like life gets easier or the running gets easier or pain becomes less painful. It's you become more tolerant to those things.
So the quote was, the more I experienced loss, the more I discovered, the more I experienced adversity, the more I became indifferent to it, refused to submit.
Absolutely.
So it's a little summed up version of that almost.
That wouldn't apply if you're in an arm bar, though, because then if you don't submit, you'll probably break your arm.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about fighting.
Me either.
Wrestling. I used to backyard wrestle.
Trying to learn how to kickbox.
Hell yeah.
I might go tomorrow, assuming work.
You do Muay Thai. That's Spanish for more Thai.
Yeah.
Very Thai.
Very Thai, yeah. Very bueno.
Yeah, so that's like one of the really underlying, I'd say one of the axioms of Wrench Life is that the progression you do is constantly fortifying you and being tougher, being better. Directly behind me, no one can see because this is only audio, is the Wrench Life poster, which is on the website, which is wrenchlife.com with a Y, because there's nothing as good as feeling good. So there's this infographic. I'll break it down more, but it kind of actually it's very, very thought out. And actually, it's funny. The longest run I ever had was trying to think through this.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's perfect.
like this is a really complicated thing, and trying to break it down into something that kind of gets the gist of it and like kind of an infographic type deal. I just went out for a run. I don't ever run far.
Yeah.
I think I ran like 4 miles maybe.
That's pretty far.
I never did more than like maybe 2.25 before. And then I was literally just like, I get obsessive about stuff, clearly. And I was like, I got to figure this out, and I got to figure it out today. And it was raining, so I wasn't going to ride because riding in the rain's apparently a lot worse than running, I guess. I don't know what I was thinking. So
Makes
I
sense.
went out and I ran, and I just kept running, and I was putting it together, playing it out in my head, playing it, like actually like visualizing that exact graphic until it came together. And then my legs were so fucking sore for like 4 days. I hadn't ran for a while before that too. But that gets a little more technical. We can get into that a little in another podcast about the specifics of the infographic. But at the very bottom, it says you. I'll move over a little bit so you can see.
Oh, yeah.
It says you, goals, value systems. And then everything is on top of that. It's a triangle, the tip down. And if you think about it in terms of weight, so all the weight of that triangle is at the very bottom tip, and that's where you are. You're holding all of it up. You have to be involved, or there's nothing at all.
Makes sense.
And for you to go anywhere, you obviously need to have the goals. So above you is the goals, because without the goals, you have goals. Everyone has goals. You don't know, like you don't realize you have goals, but like everything you do is based on a goal, and you can define that goal based on your actions. Like most people don't even know why they do what they do. I play that game with the kids. Why? What do you mean why? Well, why? Because I want to. Yeah, why? I like it. You just told me the same thing again. Why? You know?
It's interesting that kids usually run through that line of questioning but never apply it to themselves.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's like they'll go up to your parents like, oh, why is this? Well, because this. Well, why? Well, because this. Well, why? And they always say why, but they never think about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think if that was something kids thought about more, they would be a lot more aware of their actions and their feelings.
For sure. You have to think through why.
Yeah.
And that's because the whole wrench life thing is it comes back to it. Your mindfulness and the meditative low intensity activity that's part of the plan will have you thinking about your goals. And then above goals on the infographic is the value systems, and the value systems really are the axioms in which you measure your goals. And they have to self-update. Same thing, like the philosophy and the ideology have to self-update the way your goals and value systems self-update. That's why the whole thing is so complicated. Like the Charlie meme we're talking about, where it's like you're putting together the murder case and it has all the pictures and the string. It's like that's how I feel like with this thing. But yeah, it's super. It's simple yet complicated because it's always self-updating, and figuring out where all these intersections lie is really the answer. It's almost like a map.
Yeah,
and we're all building a map versus our diet, our physical activity, our goals, our values, and my map is not going to be your map. Anyone could look at a map and say, "Oh, that's a map." I'm not a cartographer, but that's a map. Yeah, super important.
Yeah, you need to be able to update your ideology through philosophy, so you don't become stagnant, right?
Shoot from the hip right here for you.
Yep.
What is your highest order goal, Blaise?
Oof. But honestly, it is just to feel happy. That's something I actually always think about. Is just it's a stupid thing, but whenever like you wish on your birthday candles when you were a kid.
Yeah.
I would always just say to be happy.
Really?
Yeah, that's something I always thought about.
I wanted a monster truck.
Did you ever get it?
No.
Your truck's kind of a monster truck.
Oh, it's just so beautiful.
I'm just picturing Gravedigger smashing cars in that place.
You know what's funny? The first music I ever owned, well, actually it was my dad's, but the first thing I ever actually like I would consider like music I liked that was my music is I had a Vivaldi Four Seasons cassette tape.
I don't even know what that is.
Vivaldi, the Four Seasons? Oh my god. It's if you were to hear it, you would know it. Hold on. It's like some of the most famous classical music. Hold on. YouTube autocorrect. Vivaldi Fortnite. No, I don't think so. Vivaldi, the Four Seasons. It's like the one's like. All right, whatever. I'll just put it on here real quick. It's like iconic music. Oh God! Of course, I don't want to take a YouTube fucking survey right now. This is spring.
Oh, okay.
That's spring. That's upbeat. It's like whatever. Gotta go ahead here. Probably summer next. That would make sense chronologically.
It's probably in the comments. It's probably split up. You can probably just
wow,
number tag
you're
it.
fucking smart, dude.
I watch a lot of YouTube. It's disgusting.
It's actually not there. Wait,
is it in the description?
Show more. Oh, summer 10:31.
See.
Well, I guess my internet's not working, but yeah, the Vivaldi Four Seasons is a classic, iconic piece of music.
Sometimes when I drive my uncle's car, I put on the classical music station. That's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. I just listen to the motor though.
Yeah. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, so what going back there with like ultimate goals type stuff. Part of what Wrench Life aims to offer is the framework for you to answer that question. Like when someone says like what are your goals? You should be like boom boom boom. Or you should be like at what time scale?
Yeah.
Like having those things defined is absolutely essential. And realistic. You can't just be like, "Oh, I want to be a fucking astronaut." It's like
it's realistic for some people. Not for me though.
Yes,
I'll definitely get hurt.
Yes, it's a shadow government. Oh God. Yeah, realistic goals. Like, what do you like?
Well, if you want to be specific, I guess there are some things I do work towards as being a cook. I do want to run my own kitchen at some point in the near future. I was actually exploring some newer options in my career path, and it looks like I might be able to, be in charge of a kitchen sooner than I thought, and it'd be cool to do that before I'm 30. Is a goal.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to be some washed up 30-year-old sous chef. That's pretty lame, especially if I'm still here in Rochester.
But one of the things I after I had the skate park going and did all that, I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. Like, it seems like a crazy thing, like, to own your own business. But after I did it, I was like, oh, I kind of was kicking myself in the butt. Like, I could have done this at 25.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not 20, because I was an idiot. I'm still an idiot. Less of an idiot, though.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and she was like, to be honest, I don't think you're ready for that kind of position. I'm like, I don't either. But, and I don't think it's good to really compare your life against everybody else's all the time. But I've heard a lot of prominent chefs have gone through being thrown into a position they're barely qualified for, and yeah, it's terrible, but it really teaches you a lot because you're really forced to take on more challenges and more responsibilities.
A lot of what I learned. Hold on. I had a bike shop that burned down, and in rebuilding that, what I learned in the rebuilding and reopening and all that paid back huge dividends when it came to starting my own business. Because like, oh, I've looked at leases before. I've done all this stuff, and I would have never known that had that terrible event not occurred.
Exactly.
Which will actually, in line with the girl I was talking to earlier about building credit, what I said to her is like, growing up's not easy. And when my father died, I just got, all of a sudden you're an adult and it's not voluntary. Like, and there's like shit. And there's nothing quite like that.
Yeah.
So what I was telling her is like, as much as you could, pile on without being forced to pile it on, one day when it comes piling on, and it's gonna come piling on, you're gonna be more prepared.
Yeah. And just be acknowledging the fact that a day like that is going to come, and not like,
oh, it's coming.
Like not like preparing in a paranoid sense, but in a readiness.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's better to have and not need than need and not have.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my regulars' parents. So this is someone's got a 16-year-old kid. She's, I don't know, 50 maybe, 48, something, maybe 45, I don't know, mid late 40s, and her parents are both still alive. And I was telling her there was such utility in being prepared for that, thinking long term, thinking existentially. My father had talk about his death all the time, what he wanted to happen, and all this stuff. So when he just died, I was like, oh, okay, I've thought about this. Like, we've talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
I got to take care of this and do that. And so when I was telling that to this person who was, 20 years older than me, they were like, fingers in the ears, la 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 la. I don't want to talk about it. It's like, what?
That's so scary.
It's like
that's so much more scary than acknowledging it.
Devastated when that happens.
You're going to be useless too, and that's the time you need to be really prepared for everything. I've experienced some loss in that, like we've talked about in the other podcast.
Yeah,
my uncle passing, and that was very sudden, and his will was very, very out of date, including an ex-wife and such. And that was really hard, and you don't like to think about it or like to pretend. You want to pretend it won't happen, but especially when money's involved, someone dying can really throw a wrench in a family. It's not
throw a wrench into your life.
Yeah, not a wrench life, but yeah, it's something that needs to be prepared for. When my stepfather died, he had been terminally ill with cancer for a long time, so we were very prepared for it, and that was a much easier experience, with just the ceremonies and the what he wanted done with his body and all that stuff you don't want to think about, but when it comes down to it, you want to have had talked about it rather than just being like, well, what did he want us to do? And then you have to fight with your family about it, because you and your mother or brother or sister might have a very different idea of what you want with your body after you've passed.
Yeah, so one of the things in as I mentioned earlier in the wrench life is the low fuck, what the fuck was I saying? Jesus Christ. It's like a meditative low why am I saying it like that? I literally have the freaking document in front of me. I could just pull it up. But yeah, it was I came up with a term I was using for it because I was trying to figure out this mad scientist wrench freaking thing. But yeah, those in going out and doing meditative activities to think through all of these things in life and these existential things and what is considered to be mindfulness. I can't even find it on this page now. Doing a terrible job.
We need Jamie.
Yeah, right?
We need Josh on a computer somewhere.
I could have swore I had this written down. I had it broken. Maybe I never saved it. No, it's Google Docs. It has to be saved. Oh, man. Wow, I'm botching this shit right now. I could have swore I had this written down. I had an acronym for it. Whatever. Oh, yeah, that's what I had. Okay. So I had all the activities within the program are based on either it's stress relief or stress management. Mm-hmm. So stress management time is exactly what it sounds like. It's going through those things and thinking through that stuff. So to not get too far into that, I can't, if I go out on a run or a ride, I can't listen to a podcast or an audiobook and my mind just won't let me listen to it because there's stuff rattling around in my brain. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I came to this formula of the stress management. So activities. So stress management activities would be something that's physically engaging but not super engaging. So that's a mellow bike ride, a walk, not a run, a walk, a hike, which is just walking on dirt.
Yeah. Well, that's something that Greg at the gym says you're busy but you're not.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to go out, and this is in the Wrench Life philosophy, is that you have to have this time, and everyone's got a different amount of time where you have to go out and you're just walking around and riding or whatever, and you're thinking through all the things that are stressing you out, and you kind of have to, it's like the messy desk analogy, there's this camera here, that camera there, there's 900 cables on this table, there's all the mail, and once a week or so you sit down, you
My
go
dad's
through
house.
your mail. Yeah, you go through the mail. That's junk mail. You file that away. You put the camera away. You put the camera on the charger. You fold up the cables. Like you have to do that mentally
Mm-hmm.
on a regular basis. Just stress management. Once you've done that, then you can start to practice like mindfulness or work on your own personal like philosophy towards your ideology. And in the plan, it's basically going to be like you're going to kind of meditate on your progress. Like you're not going to be able to just be like, oh, I'm going to do this wrench life thing or whatever, and you're going to just sit down and write down all your fucking goals because you don't know them. But you'll start with, oh, I'm going to, twice a week, 3 times a week, 12 times a week, I'm going to go out for a walk in these various parks because there's parks everywhere that you're not going into.
It's so great. Rochester, we're so fortunate in Rochester.
There's nature everywhere.
So neat.
How neat is that?
Where else are you going to find all this neat
So
stuff?
you got to go out. First, you got to think through all the crap that's on your mind. Once you've thought through the crap that's on your mind, then you could work on your personal, like, wrench life. Then once you've done that, you've already been practicing mindfulness trading. It's a little meditative, and you can then use that to think about these big things in life. Like, what are you going to do when you die? Who's going to give a shit when you die? What do I do when my mom dies? Like, those big things, those are all shadows you're living under that you don't want to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, part of you is thinking about it all the time.
It's almost like if your mind is like a desk and you're going to try and write your goals down at that desk, but on the desk is just covered with paper and mail of all these thoughts that you need to actually deal with, and you're just not. Bills and whatever else. You have to like
It's a
clear
fantastic analogy.
So to clear the desk off so you can write your goals down.
Yeah, like there could be a piece of paper that paper there could be my goals, but with all the clutter around this desk, I can't read that.
Yeah.
And I wrote it in garbage handwriting, and thinking through all those goals takes it from being scribbled on a piece of paper to typed out in a Word document, printed out on a clipboard in the middle of your desk with nothing on it.
Yep.
And then a pen and a checkbox.
Yep.
Like,
and it's almost like even if you're not a goal-oriented person, somewhere in your head you probably know that if you were to look at it and write a goal down, you would be held accountable for it. So it makes it a real thing.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go through all the process of getting to it because then you'll have to hold yourself accountable to it. And that's just work. And people don't like to work. It's hard.
Mental health is physical health. That's why on the infographic, anything that mentions anything about the body is at the top, and it's all standing on you and the goals. It's the single most important thing. Without goals, well, everyone has goals. They don't know what their goals are. Like, you have goals. Any action anyone does, you could look at it and be like, what'd they do? Like, you might think you're doing things every day.
Mm-hmm.
And you might think that you're doing it for a certain reason. But someone else can look at what you're doing, look at the patterns what you're doing, and they can absolutely figure out what you're aiming for. And it might not be what you think you're aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could be lying to yourself because you're dumb. We're all dumb.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you really objectively look at your own life, like if I look at my life right now, I waste a lot of time because I don't want to think about those things. My desk is pretty messy, and I intentionally just throw paper and that's way better.
Yeah.
You just throwing paper and like Instagram at my desk, so I don't have to look at my goals and the things I need to do.
Instagram is a great example because you could, I could really quickly go on anyone's Instagram feed and quantify what they're posting, what it is, how they're posting it, how they're captioning it, and in probably 10 minutes of mediocre, just mediocre analytical time, I could pretty much figure out what you're aiming for. Mm-hmm. And most people on social media, it's validation through, a social framework.
Yeah, it is a crazy social experiment. Instagram, just people. Even if you're not, that's not like your end game to put on like a better version of your life. That's what you're doing. Any action of like, well, if I'm going to take 3 pictures and I pick the best one, you're still editing your life to make it look better to whatever you see. And even if that is just to like, when you look back at it, like remember it the best it could be rather than like this horrible thing. I don't know. It's just, it's editing your life. Yeah. And people take social media a lot more seriously because our brains are aren't wired for that. You're not supposed to be able to know what's going on all the time. And
yeah, we're definitely going to go into social media. Well, I'm planning on doing probably one a week of these. Hopefully, you could be here for most of them, or someone for that matter. And I'm going to generally, I'm going to be doing research on all the things we're talking about, so I can pull up data and statistics and research that's been done on it, so I could support it better than just talking about it. And then you won't do the research, but then you will be asking me the questions that maybe other people are thinking. But social media is so super, super fucked up. It's like people don't want to go out and run as much as they want to post a picture of people knew they were running. Right?
Yeah.
It's you're looking for external validation, and Wrench Life is here to find your internal validation. Because when you're internally validated, it doesn't matter what other people think about you. Like, I don't give a shit,
Yeah.
Like if I'm like, I'll just wear my riding gear where I go anywhere. Like yesterday, I rode in the snow at Lindley, and we went to Bantam in like our full snow gear, like covered in just dirty as shit. And it's like, people will judge you for how you look.
And that's interesting to watch in itself, because then you can analyze how someone analyzes you and how they treat you accordingly. And it's just a weird thing. And then social media allows that without even meeting anybody or talking, and you can.
Social media really, really points out how misguided people are, how unarticulated their goals are. No, very few people. So I'm 30 and younger. So people in my age demographic and lower, they can get so much validation by just projecting that they're doing something rather than doing something, and they don't have to do it like at all. I don't tell it. I talk about what I do, but I'm not posting all my rides on Strava or my run statistics. And I don't give a shit whether you run 10 miles or 1 mile. Like if one of my friends runs, like, good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Just run.
Yeah.
Don't post that you're going to the gym every day.
Yeah, I went to the gym the last 9 days in a row. Well, not in a row, but last week I did 5 days in a row. This week I did 4. I didn't post about it.
It's like essentially they're saying, I go to the gym, so I'm a gym guy. I'm a healthy guy.
Yeah.
It's like they're not going like, you could look at someone and be like, yeah, you look good, you look healthy, or like when you feel good, you project that you feel good. Mm-hmm. People, instead of actually trying to feel good, they just project this thing that hides, that they actually don't feel good.
They just want the end result rather than doing the work to get there. And posting on social media is a really easy way to do that.
Oh my god, yeah. Like why? You don't have to eat healthy every day if once a week you post on social media that you ate something that you think is healthy,
or every day
generally people think is healthy.
Or every day you post your bowl and your fake avocado toast with fake meat on it.
It's ridiculous. Like, you don't God. It's really embarrassing. Really, really embarrassing. And once you realize that, once you think through all those things. Because you're constantly, and I mean you're in a meta sense, like everyone, you're analyzing what people are posting and you're inferring stuff from it. Mm-hmm. Well, you should do that for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what that part of that meditative space is going to be, is thinking about that. Why did I post that? Who is that aimed for? Like, you post something, like everyone is going to relate with what I'm going to say right now. You've posted something on social media because there was one person you wanted to see.
Yep.
You wanted one person to see it. What was that?
Sounded like something died.
Everything's still on. Might have been the computer going to sleep.
Oh. Well, yeah, for sure. There's always a time where you post something on social media just for the attention of one specific person.
It's really quiet now. I wonder if we were getting feedback on the computer before.
Yeah, it definitely sounded like a fan.
Whatever, we'll see on the if I get on the computer and there's feedback, we'll have to redo all this.
That's fine.
We'll be better the second
time. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
And it takes some weird level of narcissism to post on social media that I don't think people consider. Like you have to really think you're something interesting to post a picture of your fucking face every day. Mm-hmm. And I find myself every time I try to post something on any social media, I'm like, who really cares? Why does anybody fucking care about what I have to think? Like, It doesn't matter.
Like, people post it because they don't know. They don't really know. But what they know is I post it and I feel good about myself. Well, why do you feel good about yourself? Well, because other people are going to see it and they're going to get likes. They're going to like it and they're going to comment it. And that's essentially like you meeting someone and they like, hey, I like you. And I feel, wow, people like me.
Yeah.
So it's like this fake distillation of people actually liking you and engaging with you, right?
Yeah. It hacks into your like dopamine and serotonin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's like it throws weird chemical imbalance in your head, or balance.
Yeah.
An artificial balance.
Have you thought about balance?
Are we even real?
Like, you post it because it feels good. Why? Because people like it. Why do people like it? I don't know. Like, when you go out there and you're walking in the woods and you keep asking yourself why and why and why, you can really get to the bottom of it.
It sucks. You don't want to be like that. That's not a necessarily fun place to be in. Like, you don't want to sit there and question yourself, because that's the hardest thing to do. The hardest person to catch is yourself. If you're just sitting there thinking about everything you like or don't like about yourself, it's hard. It makes you want to just pull up your phone and scroll through Instagram, and so you don't have to listen to it.
Well, the reason
your
you
own
can't
voice.
catch your own shit is because you know exactly where to hide it, because you're you.
Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people, it's something they've never thought about, and they build these barriers and compartments in their head where they just don't think about themselves.
I had a great talk with my brother about whether repressed memories really exist or not the other day. It was like super good. Gary's really smart. He's definitely going to be on this sooner or later. He wants to move here, and then he'll probably be in a lot of these.
That'd be so awesome.
It won't be for a while, but he's just like, him and I have been on our journey together. Not together, but like, we both had our struggles. We're obviously from the same family, and we talk a lot. And, you know, I bounce off of him, and he bounces off of me, and then we bounce it both off of, you know, our, childhood and stuff. And it's been immensely beneficial for me, and I'm sure it's been beneficial for him. So I'll tell you, one of the things I realized through all this meditative space, like a fundamental core thing about me, and it actually echoed through like history. It's pretty interesting. So I kept asking myself about these things I hate. Why don't I like that? Like, why do I hate this shameful social media selfie stuff? Why do I hate people that, you know, everyone hates the guy with like the fucking nice sports car or whatever, you know? And I realized that no matter almost everything that I have a strong distaste for boils down to decadence. It's all at the bottom of all of it is decadence. And then all my favorite things, favorite people, you know, is the counter to that. It's like humble stuff, right? Everything I hate is comes down to decadence. And then I was thinking about my childhood, and we were pretty poor growing up, so we had not a lot of stuff, but we had a pretty wholesome childhood before my parents split. And then after they split, like, it just deteriorated to hell. And so I had basically nothing, and then less than nothing. So I think at the core, and this is just me on my journey now, this could be different later, I think at the core, it's like, I don't like decadence because people don't appreciate what they have. Because,
sure.
And I appreciate everything I have because I used to have nothing.
Yeah.
You know? And that was like kind of mind-blowing. It's like something you always knew. It's like I always knew that, but I didn't like know that. I finally articulated it and be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Like,
yeah.
And it's so crazy. I've had a million realizations about myself through meditative writing space. And it's absolutely mind-blowing. That's something you've experienced, that you've thought about like 100 times. That just one day, just by thinking about it, all of a sudden it's like, bing!
Yeah.
Wait, that's it? Where the fuck did that thought come from? Did I always know that? How, like, that, like, it miraculously appeared in my head that the one time I did this one shitty thing to my girlfriend, it was actually because of this, and I didn't realize it at the time.
Yep.
How do I know that now, and I never knew it before then?
It's just time, man. It's just like 1,000 monkeys on a typewriter. Eventually they'll write Beethoven or whatever,
Right.
or a play. It's the, you know, it's like when you look at like monks or whatever, those people that just sit in a monastery and think all day and don't do anything. And that's why they come up with all these ideas, is because all they're doing is trying to make those connections and think and think and think and not be afraid of their own thoughts and their feelings and the demon inside of them that everyone has, that they acknowledge what they are as people and how they got there.
Yeah. So we're this is almost getting to an hour, so I'm gonna wrap this up shortly. But like I said before, those realizations are what I want everyone to have. Like, I look like I'm doing okay in life and I'm in decent shape and all this stuff, but it wasn't always like that. Like, I was horribly depressed for a long time, and I figured out through like just trial and error, years of trial and error, I made it work. And I'm like so happy now, and it's mind blowing. It freaks me out. Like, I can't even say I'm happy without crying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the and the people like that seem to have it the most together usually have been through the most struggle. Like, I came from a much different background, a lot more, admittedly, a lot more fortunate, and with that comes with a lot of weird guilt, because I know people have a lot of like your story, like a lot different. Yeah. And I've wrestled with like, it just seems so like fucking pretentious for me to say that I've struggled with how easy my life has been. And there's been times of serious depression that I had to work my way through, but you only get there by looking at it and dealing with it.
Yeah,
it only gets worse if you avoid everything.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, because you came from a different background and you seem pretty conscious of those things, and a lot of people aren't. So I think that there's a lot of similarities that we have, and there's also huge differences, and I think it'll be really beneficial to the conversations we're gonna have.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I grew up upper middle class, only child, and I never had to worry. I still don't really have to worry, but I try to work like I have to worry. And my mom just worked constantly, whatever freelance work she could do or whatever. Like, she didn't have to work that hard.
Yeah.
But she just did, to make sure that we never had to worry. And I think both my parents they didn't grow up poor, but the work ethic is everything, man. Like, it's,
yeah,
I don't know, it's I don't know, I've totally lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it's fine. I derailed there before. Yeah, like, I never ever thought I would be happy. Like, I used to be like, oh, it's fine, I'm content with never being happy. Like, I was only ever aiming to be content, and like, I'm here now, and it's like mind blowing to me that I got here, and I really want to help other people figure it out. It's one of the biggest realizations I had, like, well before any of this really started, was that, like, I used to be really mad at the world, and it was like, basically, it was like, fuck you, you don't know what a real problem is.
Yeah.
Right? And then eventually I realized, I figured it out. Like, hold on. Like, my worst day feels like your worst day. Feels like anyone else's worst day. Like, and you can have worse days, but like, that feeling, the way your feelings work and your emotions work, like, your worst day is your worst day.
Yeah.
And if like, my worst day was like laying on the floor, like, contemplating killing myself, versus someone else's worst day is like, my mom took the car away or something. It's like, it generally feels about the same. It's really, really easy when you're that depressed person to be like, screw you, you don't know what this feels like.
Exactly.
But when I finally came to terms with that, being like, oh no, like, sadness is sadness, discontent is discontent. Like, we all feel the same, and I should not be bitter, and I should not be resentful of someone else who doesn't have it as bad as me, because that's a horrible long-term tactic, and that will just keep you in that negative mind space. It's toxic as fuck, dude.
Yeah, no one has any business telling someone else how they how they feel or the severity of their feelings. I think the only thing you can ever really be sure of in this world, because who knows if we're real, man, is like how you feel. If you feel a certain way, that's how you feel, and no one can tell you any different.
How am I supposed to feel?
Gotta ask
though.
Gotta ask yourself, man. That's the only thing you have control of is yourself and your feelings.
And that's why we're here. The conversation is it like by you and I or two other people talking about their worst moments or their saddest days or any of those things that, like, I can't tell you what to feel, right? I can't exactly judge you for it, but I could ask you questions about, like, why? What happened? What led you to be there? Was it your own fault? Like, chances are, like, it's always your own fault.
Yeah.
But to what percentage? Like, 100%? 90%?
It's a lot of stuff
10%?
that is completely out of your control, like, forces it be or whatever, anything that just happens, but it's how you interpret it can make anything your own fault.
And you'll get there's a full spectrum of people with that. Like, some people, when something goes wrong, their immediate reaction is, it's 100% my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're depressed, that's pretty much is the default because you're just worthless.
Yeah. And
then there's another scale of people where something happens and it's everyone else's fault, which can also be depressed people. Like, not everyone's the same way. Maybe you feel both ways, but, like, obviously being in a mind space where you can critically analyze those things and come to a realistic, answer, or something that approximates some sort of answer for the time being. Like, you could always go back and remeditate on that stuff and come up with a better answer, but any answer is better than no answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to help people get those answers. And the mental health comes first.
Yep.
I think I'll end it right there.
That's pretty good. Pretty good synopsis.
The next one we'll do, I want to establish kind of where I came from to kind of, get an idea of where this is coming from.
Sweet.
Because I don't want it to be like, business owner guy living the life or whatever, telling you, whatever.
My sweet new podcast setup with these super expensive $30 mics.
Yeah, I'm hope, Yeah, I think the first, 2, 3, 4 of these will be kind of just laying a rough framework and hopefully an interesting conversation. And then we'll kind of get into specifics and try to keep it on the track. Like, we'll talk about, whatever it be, social media, the differences between stress management and stress relief. And we'll talk about being in the zone. Gary and I were talking about that. Gary's my brother.
That'd be a good one. I could talk about with cooking. There's a lot of parallels to that in action sports and anything really. Action sports with that flow state and that being in the zone thing is a really powerful thing.
See, one of the problems with I would say society in general right now, in my opinion, is that the stigma around mental health, the stigma around being an alpha male, all those things are kind of not conducive to good mental health, which is ironic. Like, in order to feel good about yourself, you have to be really not dominant, but you have to be competent, right? In order to work towards your goals, you need to be competent in that.
Mm-hmm.
Our society has got to this place where we like to frown at like the winners, like if you because essentially, if you're going to look at the richest people and say, oh, they've only exploited to get there, if you're going to look at the pinnacle of everything and say that they're just it's not worth aiming for, it kind of you eliminate the biggest axiom in which you're aiming towards your goals. And I want to bring that back. Like, the stigma that mental illness is okay. It's just it's a part of you and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's good. It made it so the conversation is open. It made it less of a stigma to talk about. And it needs to be talked about. But it's not a fucking crutch.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Well, no.
It
is a crutch. It's like a crutch when you sprain your ankle and you're on a crutch for,
It doesn't have to define you.
like
it's not
exactly,
like I'm an anxious person. That's my fallback reason for everything.
Yeah.
There's a bigger answer to that question for sure.
You fall, you twist your ankle up, you get an X-ray, you get an MRI. That's your meditative space. Then you walk with that crutch. Maybe it's a wheelchair. Then it's a crutch. Maybe it's a boot, and then it's an ace bandage. Like you work towards being able to walk on your own 2 feet again. It's not. There's this idea out there now that anxiety and depression is a crutch, and you're going to walk with that crutch forever, and everyone needs to, give you special treatment because of that crutch.
Yeah.
You do deserve some special. Everyone deserves some special treatment. You deserve to be like, oh wow, where'd you get that crutch? Oh well, my girlfriend left, and this and that. It's like, oh wow,
yeah,
that helps you get rid of that crutch. I want to help people get rid of that crutch. Yeah. And I said the mental health predicates the physical health, and that's what we're gonna do here. Hopefully, for the 6 people that listen to this, make it through the hour.
Hey man, if it's 6 people, it's still pretty powerful.
For sure.
It's pretty awesome.
I don't have a sign off or anything. I haven't really thought about that. I've been thinking about this shit for like 3 weeks on just how to get the first episode out. And we got it out, so we'll get there.
I'm a little upset you don't have the Joe Rogan guitar riff queued up for the end.
Could do that. I could just use that Beethoven song.
Yeah, that'd be actually really good.
Yeah, so
sweet, dude.
It's 1 hour, 1 minute. Yeah, feel free to check out wrenchlife.com, wrenchlife with a Y, because there's nothing more valuable than feeling good. You can go to wrenchlife.com/podcast to download this if you wanted to have it permanently. Also, there is a donate button on the Wrench Life site. If you like this, feel free to donate. You probably won't. You don't have to.
This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by use the code word Rogan.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Double-blind placebo studies.
That's not okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so go out there and, wrench your life. Turn that wrench a little bit. Just one turn at a time. Be a little bit better than yesterday, all right?
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess.